Hey Bat fans, Luke here, back with our next installment of Batness 2020, and today we're going to take a look at the story Batman Officer Down. Batman Officer Down is part of what we consider the new Gotham era of Batman storytelling, which occurred after No Man's Land. If you're doing your kind of timeline at home, this one is obviously after Batman Evolution, which was directly after No Man's Land, but this one I kind of put right after False Faces and right before Gotham County Line, but right snugly, again, right after Batman Evolution, after No Man's Land. And this one is, again, kind of like the spiritual successor in a way to that Batman Evolution story, which I did a video review for earlier, and I will link that in the description below. Now, this one, it is actually a collection of stories from across the Bat titles, and this one you would see occurred in Batman 587, Robin 86, Birds of Prey 27, Catwoman 90, Nightwing 53, Detective Comics 754, Gotham Knights issue number 13. And this is actually a collection, again, like kind of across the line, but really kind of like a who's who of Batman creators at the time. You had Rucka, Brubaker, Dixon on the writing, amongst other things. So you actually have a good cast of Bat creators throughout. And what basically this story is, and one of the good things about it is Batman is not really in this a lot, at least not the central figure of this. Ultimately, what it comes down to, as this cover kind of goes, is that this really occurs when Commissioner Gordon actually gets shot. And what people initially think is that Catwoman is the one that actually shoots Commissioner Gordon. And the first installment of this story is actually really good. It sets the tone, not only with the type of stories you're going to get, but really, again, this is Rucka and you have Brubaker. Keep in mind, this is before the series Gotham Central. This is almost kind of like a look behind the curtain of what would ultimately become Gotham Central, because you actually get a lot of, for this, again, before Gotham Central, a really heavy dose of police procedural in this story. And basically, this is nothing more than just a mystery in that, not in the mystical sense, but this is like a detective case. It really comes down to it's not only the members of the Bat family trying to solve, who actually did this, and once they kind of got a gist of who they think did, ultimately trying to prove that fact. And this is one where it does, everything doesn't wrap up rather neatly, and you'll see that toward the end. But basically, again, what happens is Commissioner Gordon is shot, and in a very bad way. Almost doesn't look like he's gonna make it. And once Batman actually gets wind of this, he actually goes bedside with Gordon, and almost throughout the entire time of the story, he is just with Gordon, while the rest of the Bat family, to include Barbara and members of the GCPD, are trying to track this down, find out what happened. And initially, it might appear that the Bat family and the GCPD are kind of at odds, but what it does come down to, once they get the good suspect, spoilers in this obviously, but Catwoman is not ultimately the one who's behind this, but members of the Bat family do put together the pieces to find out who actually did, and provide some sort of evidence to the GCPD so they can apprehend the subject. And unfortunately, things again doesn't necessarily work out in this. If you've read Gotham Central, you'll see that again, just how the GCPD works, and sometimes things don't go their way, and how the drama and the character kind of interaction kind of really forms a story. Again, this is almost like a prequel to Gotham Central. I really must say, but um, they do get the suspect, and you actually find the motive behind why this person did what they did, and I thought it was pretty clever, to be honest. And I liked how everything just didn't. Again, everything just wasn't wrapped up in a nice little bow. It didn't work out that way. But ultimately, what we end up finding out again is the suspect initially, um, without going too much into spoiler uh, territory, does get the upper hand. But throughout this, as Commissioner Gordon does recover, again, this kind of sets the seed for kind of like the status quo moving forward, in that Commissioner Gordon actually elects to retire and step away from being a police officer. Which obviously, not only that Commissioner Gordon being shot now, on top of that, wants to lead the force, really puts his team, who he actually spends a lot of time in this story, how he really cares for his team. They're perfect. They're personally selected, and they kind of feel like family to him. And the fact that he's going away now really puts that divide between the GCPD and um, the suspect, who does have a tie to the GCPD. But again, I don't want to totally spoil, because there is a twist in this, and how it kind of wraps up everything. But you do see that not only that it just adds more salt to the wound to the members of the GCPD. You do see kind of an open ending. Again, I do want to spoil, but I'm not. Um, the really good teamwork between Bullock and Renee Montoya, again, the seeds are born here for Gotham Central. And if you haven't read Gotham Central, boy, yeah, please get on there. It's actually definitely worth the read. But Harvey, in a way, kind of prevents Renee from really making a terrible mistake. But in doing so, he kind of puts himself in a position where it's not specifically said in here, but it is implied that he kind of goes rogue a little bit, which again sets the stage later for Gotham Central and the status quo in that book, if you have read it. So generally, that's the story. Couple thoughts on this. There was some. I'm not gonna say shortcuts, but there sort of was. The big one in this is that the way that the Bat family tracked down Catwoman in this, and to actually kick up the evidence needed to go after the person who was really behind the shooting behind Gordon, it felt kind of lazy, to be honest. Catwoman, I don't think would give up as easily as she does in here, but she does. And again, the whole thing with the evidence, how she stashed it away and was kind of convenient, what was sort of a reach. Now that said, the way the evidence was described and how it kind of puts the suspect sort of in the ballpark of being at the scene of the crime and actually committing the act, I thought was really clever. And you do get some depth in how it's explained, how sometimes while the cops are great, there are some crooked ones in a way. And I liked how this one actually uh, was in a way a way out for the suspect. But that said, again, just how Catwoman kind of gave it up, and how that was kind of resolved in a way. The key part of the evidence, Lincoln, who actually was the person behind this. Uh, the introduction of the evidence was, I thought, was kind of cheap. especially since everything else in the story was so developed. Another thing I thought was somewhat bad is that I thought Catwoman was not portrayed to her, I would say, ideal character. I thought she was a little too aggressive and abrasive for my taste. But other than that, Catwoman generally I thought was okay. But those are really only the bad things about it. The good things about it, again, this is a story where Batman's not the central part of it, so it kind of puts other people more in the spotlight. But I love, again, how this is kind of like the seed for Gotham Central. Just awesome. You get some exploration between the GCPD and the members within it, how they interact with each other and the public. I like the character development in this with Barbara Gordon, how she's kind of torn in this, where she wants revenge, but this is obviously her as Oracle. How she kind of takes charge and kind of provides the oversight to the members of the Bat family, to include Dick Grayson in this, to kind of orchestrate ways to get the evidence they need to get the suspect while this is going down the life of her father, hanging in the balance. And initially, I thought another really awesome point was that she actually found out what happened to her father before she was actually informed of by the police, and obviously she had to be in a way where, and if the police would find out that she knew before they told her, it would obviously kind of throw off her Oracle persona. So kind of being in that position where she knows ultimately what happens with her dad and how he's hanging on for dear life, but all that while that's going on, having to pretend like she don't know, and the police are going to actually inform her and notify her. I just thought that was really a nice touch of class in that. I thought that was really good. The Batman part in this, I thought I liked it. I mean, keep in mind, this is Commissioner Gordon. Save, Alfred and maybe Dick Grayson, his most trusted and most relied upon ally he has. And this one, you actually feel like he says in it, like, I feel like I failed you. And you see how remorseful and sorrowful, and it just, you don't see him say much, but you get the gist. Just the way he's by bedside, he just refuses to go away, remain bedside, while his ally really just clings on. It's just, I thought that was really, really well done. In the ending, again, I like the ending. It's left open for interpretation what happens, the choice that Bullock made, and what is actually shown. I'm going to see if I can show it without really showing the main part. What's kind of implied. And there's a symbol that is actually introduced early on in the story about, why be a cop? What's the power of being a cop? What's really responsibility? And it's a key that Gordon actually gives to each member of his team, and it's really symbolic. And I like how that's tied into the story at the very end with Bullock and Montoya, and I thought that was really good. You read it, you'll get the symbolism, and I thought that was really a master class move. But I think that was Rucka who actually did the first issue and the final issue in this. I thought that was weaved in really well. The art in this, I thought the art was good. You really can't blame the art being totally different from each chapter of the story, because literally each chapter of the story is different parts of each different book. So obviously you're going to have a different creative team in this. But for the most part, I liked the art. There was, I think, you read the first chapter, is really, really good art. And it's really detailed, and the color is great, and I loved it. Then when you get to the second, it just seems, while the story is good, the art just seemed like a total change and shift in art style, which did feel kind of jarring. And then you get to the third chapter in this. It's almost kind of back a little bit. Keep in mind here, it's just Harris. And the art for the most part was okay. Really, nothing really to complain about. I mean, all of it really. There's really no art that's bad, but the transition between the art, it does become kind of jarring in this. I think it might be the fourth chapter. There's some scenes in it, and it's just the inking just really kind of threw me off a little bit. But here or there, yeah, this is. Well, I get the point. The conversation between Harvey Bullock and Nightwing in this, and the face was just kind of threw me off a little bit too. Again, not bad. It's just the transition between issues did seem a little jarring. But all in all, I really enjoyed this story. And I think you will too. This is one, it's not perfect. You do kind of go in there with an expectation that, hey, you're going to get a good detective story. There might be a shortcut here and there. This does segue greatly from No Man's Land and carries on those stories post that saga, and then really again plants the seeds for Gotham Central. I thought really, really well. But all in all, it's a good character exploration story. It's very symbolic. It's street level detective, but it's nothing that's fantastic and earth shattering. It's You're just gonna have a good time. So all in all, that said, I'm gonna give it a 3.25 out of 5. What to recommend to get it? Again, just caution you. Again, this is nothing that's gonna really blow you away. You're just gonna have a good time. This actually been collected recently in a new version of the trade. It actually has evolution, and it's actually called New Gotham. So between back issues and that new version of the trade, that actually again collects with it Batman Evolution, relatively accessible, and even in the back issues, I think you'll have no issue getting those as well. So all in all, easy accessible. You'll have a good time reading it. What to recommend? 3.25 out of 5. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Batman Officer Down. Hit me up in the comments below if you read this book. I would love the bat chat, and I will kind of go from there. So until the next installment of Batmas 2020, take care.